Hey guys, tonight we saddle up and head straight into the dusty, chaotic, and occasionally downright terrifying world of frontier medicine in the Wild West, where doctors were half entrepreneurs, half gamblers, and occasionally just janitors, with very sharp knives. Out on the frontier, if you got sick, you didn't exactly have the luxury of calling up a clinic or strolling into a sterile hospital. Your options were simple and bleak. Find a doctor who might kill you faster than the illness, try to cure yourself with whiskey and guesswork, or skip straight to the dying part. And if you were really unlucky, well, your friendly neighborhood doctor might just turn out to be a guy who once swept floors in a medical school and decided, yeah, I think I'll try cutting people open. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy these strange little trips into history's darker corners. And while you're at it, drop me a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. I always love seeing who's out there watching these tales unfold. Whether you're up late, curled up in bed, or sneaking a listen at work while pretending to answer emails. Now, dim the lights, maybe pour yourself a stiff drink preferably. Not one laced with mercury or sulfur like they used back then, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Because in the Wild West, a trip to the doctor wasn't just a medical decision, was a gamble with your life. And our story begins, naturally, with two rival doctors settling their professional dispute the only way they knew how, with a gunfight. Part 1. Your choices were bad. Picture this. You're a settler on the frontier. You've been wrangling cattle, digging for gold, or maybe just minding your own business, when suddenly your body betrays you. Fever, infection, maybe a gunshot. Wound from your idiot cousin's accidental quick-draw practice. Now you've got three options. 1. Find a doctor and pray that his magic powders don't kill you faster than the disease. 2. Treat yourself with moonshine and guesswork. Or 3. Die. Spoiler alert, most people ended up at option 3 no matter what. Doctors in the Wild West weren't exactly practicing science. They were more like entrepreneurs who happened to carry knives. Sure, some actually had medical degrees, but others, they were janitors who got bored at their job, listened in on a few lectures, and thought, hey, I could totally cut someone open. And because the frontier was short on medical professionals, all you really needed to call yourself doctor was confidence, a tent, and a bag of rusty tools. Of course, medicine wasn't just dangerous, it was also competitive. When a new physician rolled into a small mining town, things got ugly. If two doctors tried to share the same patch of dirt, profits got split. And in the Old West, nothing was scarier to a man than someone else stealing his side hustle. So what did doctors do? Naturally, they dueled with guns, because that's how you solved all professional disagreements in the Wild West. Forget Yelp reviews, forget licensing boards. You didn't like your competitor. You shot him. Part 2. The Doctor Duel of Hangtown. Let's talk about one of the wildest medical job interviews in history. In Placerville, California, which back then had the much more inviting name, Hangtown, a young physician named Dr. Edward Willis set up shop. He pitched a tent, nailed up a sign that read doctor and surgeon, and got ready to cut people open. But the town already had a Dr. Doc Hullings, he did not take kindly to competition. Hullings stormed into Willis's tent, demanded he leave, and probably practiced his angry doctor voice. Willis, calm as a cucumber, told him to get out instead. That should have been the end. But this is the Wild West, where every argument escalated into a death match. A few days later, Hullings came back with backup gold miners with guns. He demanded proof that Willis was a real doctor. Willis pulled out his diploma. Hullings ripped it in half and threw it on the ground. Naturally, Willis's buddy punched Hullings in the face. At this point, there were only two ways to settle things: either thumb wrestling or a pistol duel. Guess which one they picked? The duel was held in an abandoned mine pit. The sheriff yelled fire. Both men shot. Hullings dropped dead. Willis's friend was full of bullet holes, but survived. And just like that, Willis became the sole town physician, his first act as doctor, signing the death certificate of his competitor. Somewhere in heaven, Hippocrates was crying. Part 3. Fake it till you kill it. If you think Willis was unusual, think again. The Wild West was full of self-declared doctors who had no business holding a scalpel. Take John Richmond, for example. He worked as a janitor in a medical school. He wasn't a student, but he eavesdropped on lectures while sweeping floors. Eventually, he quit, walked out, and declared himself a surgeon. His first big job, performing a cesarean section. Yes, a man who had never cut open anything more complicated than a turkey decided to slice into a human being with a set of pocket knives. At 1 a.m, the mother survived somehow, but the baby didn't. Richmond later wrote about the experience in flowery prose, claiming the patient never complained of pain. Which is weird, because other witnesses remembered her begging him to stop because she was in excruciating pain. This was the frontier medical system in a nutshell. Desperate people, desperate measures, and doctors who basically learned surgery from overhearing class notes. And yet, this hack job operation became the first published account of a C-section in the United States. History is wild. Like that, the first milestone in American cesarean history was basically written by a janitor with a knife. Part 4. The greatest hits of terrible medicine. But let's not act like the real doctors were much better. Even trained physicians believed in treatments that sound like medieval torture devices. Take bloodletting. The idea was that illness came from bad blood, so the cure was to drain it out. If they couldn't get blood from your arm, they went straight for the jugular. Literally. Fun fact, most of those patients died, or blistering. Doctors would smear ground chili peppers on your skin until massive blisters appeared. The theory was that the new pain distracted you from the old pain. It's like smashing your thumb with a hammer to forget about your headache. And then there was purgation. The go-to drug, calomel, a mercury-based laxative. It emptied your guts like a fire, hydrant and poisoned you in the process. If you survived, congratulations, you probably didn't need a doctor in the first place. When people saw doctors cutting throats open or keeping kids alive with fishhooks jammed into their windpipes, they didn't think, wow, science is amazing. They thought, this man is possessed by Satan, and honestly, can you blame them? Part 5. Women in the Wild West medicine game. Not all doctors were men with guns and questionable diplomas. The frontier actually opened doors for women in medicine. Enter Dr. Bethenia Owens Adair. She studied at medical schools back east, earned an MD, and rode out west to Oregon. She worked tirelessly day or night, rain or shine, trudging through mud in gumboots just to see her patients. Her dedication made her a legend. But plot twist, she was also a big fan of the eugenics movement. In 1909, she supported a bill to sterilize criminals, epileptics, and the feeble-minded. It actually passed the Oregon legislature, though the governor refused to sign it. Washington state later adopted a similar law, thanks in part to her efforts. So yeah, she was both a trailblazing female doctor and an advocate for forced sterilization. History is complicated like that still. Women like Owens Adair showed that the West wasn't just a playground for gunslinging male doctors with blood-stained aprons. Sometimes it was also a playground for women with ambitious ideas and terrifying social policies. Part 6. Pay me in chicken so. What did it cost to nearly die under the care of a frontier doctor? Not much. A house visit might be 25 cents. An overnight stay, maybe a whole $1. But most people didn't have cash. Instead, they paid in eggs, wood, blankets, or beef. Some doctors even gave discounts if you fed their horses. Imagine being told your surgery would cost 2 chickens and a side of bacon. Many doctors doubled as druggists, whipping up their own herbal remedies. These concoctions often borrowed heavily from Native American knowledge of plants, though, of course, the doctors never gave credit. Instead, they sold the potions as their own inventions, unregulated and often laced with alcohol or opium. By the end of the 1800s, medical science in Europe was making leaps and bounds. Meanwhile, in the Wild West, your doctor was still telling you to drink sulfur with a whiskey chaser. And honestly, that might have been the least deadly treatment of them all. So next time you complain about waiting too long at the clinic, just remember, at least your doctor isn't armed with a chili pepper paste, a rusty knife, and an overwhelming sense of confidence.